Hello and welcome to the Profitable Baker podcast, the show for bakers who mean business. I'm Annie Bennett, founder of the Home Baking Business Academy, and every week I'll be sharing practical lessons, mindset shifts, and inspiring stories from bakers who are building businesses they love. Because success in this industry isn't about who bakes the fanciest cakes, it's about who builds the strongest business foundations. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Profitable Baker podcast with me, Annie Bennett. Now, I'm really glad that you're here today and that you're listening to this because I have a feeling that today's episode is really going to resonate with at least some of you. Today, we're talking about one of the most common things I see quietly holding baking business owners back. And I want to be really clear from the start, it's not a lack of skill. It's not your pricing being wrong. It's not that the market won't pay. It's something far more subtle and in many ways far more frustrating. It's being too nice. Now, before you switch this off and think, well, I don't want to be mean, hear me out. Because I'm absolutely not suggesting that you stop being the warm, kind, and generous human being that you are. What I am saying is that in business, the version of nice that most of us default to, the people-pleasing, over-accommodating, bend-over-backwards version, is costing you significantly. And most bakers I speak to have no idea how much. So today we're going to be pulling all that apart. We're going to look at where it shows up, what it's actually costing you in time, money, and energy, and what you can start doing differently. So let's get into it. So what does too nice actually look like? Okay, let me paint you a picture here. It's a Thursday evening. You've had a full day, you've had a really busy week, you're tired, and you get a message from a customer asking if you can squeeze in an order for this weekend. Now, you're already at capacity. You know you are. But she seems really lovely. She's been a customer before, and saying no feels awkward. So you say yes. Does that sound familiar? What about this one? You quote a customer for a 3-tiered celebration cake. You priced it properly, ingredients, time, overheads, the lot. And they come back and they say, oh, that's a bit more than I was hoping for. And immediately, before you've even thought it through, you offer a discount. Not because you can afford to, not because it makes business sense, but because the silence felt uncomfortable and you wanted to make them feel better. Or what about this scenario? A customer messages you at 9:30 at night asking a question about their order and you reply because you don't want them to think you're unprofessional, even though a professional would have an out-of-hours boundary and nobody would think less of them for it. So it's the late night replies, the last minute orders, the free extras thrown in just this once, the discount that somehow happens every single time someone pushes back. The custom work you do that wasn't in the original quote because you didn't want to seem difficult. Now, every single one of these moments feels small in isolation. A few minutes here, a few pounds there. But here's what you need to know. These moments are not isolated. They are a pattern. And that pattern, played out week after week, month after month, adds up to a staggering amount of unpaid time, undercharged work, and energy you simply don't have to keep giving away. And there's a cost behind the money too, because when you're constantly accommodating everyone else, something starts to happen inside you. You start to feel resentful. You start to dread certain customers, certain order types. You begin to lie awake thinking about the message you need to reply to and the order you shouldn't have taken, the discount you wish you hadn't given. And you begin to wonder, is this really worth it? Why am I even doing this? This is not a you problem. This is a boundaries problem. So let's talk about the real reason why we do it, why this happens, because I think it's really important that we don't just go straight to, right, set some boundaries, crack on. The reason most bakers default to being too accommodating runs way deeper than just wanting to be liked, although that is a part of it. A lot of baking businesses start as a passion or a hobby or something that began with making cakes for friends and family. And in that world, being generous, being flexible, doing a little extra, that's lovely. That's just who you are. There's no transaction, there's no cost to serve, and there's no business to protect. But then you start charging, and suddenly the rules change, except nobody told you that they changed. So you keep showing up with that same generous, accommodating energy in a context that now has real financial stakes. And the people around you, through no fault of their own, learn very quickly that if they push a little, you'll flex. If they seem disappointed, you'll discount. If they ask for more, you'll give it. And here's the other layer to this. For a lot of women running businesses from home, and I know that's a huge part of this community, there is a deeply ingrained belief that being difficult, being firm, having standards makes you a bad person. We are conditioned consciously and unconsciously to keep the peace, to not make a fuss, to be easy to get along with. And running a business where you hold firm on your prices, where you decline orders that don't fit, where you stop replying to messages at 9 o'clock at night, that can feel like you're going against who you are. But here's the reframe I want you to sit with. Holding a boundary is not the same as being unkind. Having a minimum order value is not the same as being greedy. Declining a last-minute request is not the same as being unhelpful. These are professional decisions, and the most professional, the most respected businesses in any industry operate with clear standards about how they work. And customers don't love them less for it, they often respect them more. So let's get into the hidden costs, the real hidden costs, because sometimes we can just dismiss, oh, it's just a few pounds here, a few pounds there. So let's actually have a look at this. Take the discount habit. If you are giving 10% discount to 1 in 3 customers because they pushed back on you, and you're doing 10 orders a month at an average value of £80, that's roughly £260 a month you're giving away. And over a year, that's over £3,000. For what? To avoid a slightly awkward conversation that could have lasted about 30 seconds. Take the late night replies. Every time you respond to a customer message outside your working hours, you are doing 2 things. Firstly, you're training that customer that this is how you operate, which means they'll keep messaging at that time because it works. Second, you're giving up your personal time, your rest, the time that allows you to show up energized and creative and good at what you do. And that has a cost, even if it doesn't show up on a spreadsheet. And let's look at those free extras, the little decoration you added, an extra batch of cookies you throw in, added across your customer base over a year. That's potentially hundreds of pounds in materials and time that you absorbed silently without a word. And perhaps most damagingly, let's take the last minute squeeze-ins, because it's not just the order itself. When you take a last minute order that pushes you to your limit, what happens? You're stressed. You might make mistakes. The quality might not be what you'd want it to be. You're not fully present for your family or yourself. And the next day you feel depleted instead of energized. And that ripple effect is enormous, and it's really hard to put a cost on that. So what do our boundaries actually look like in practice? And what do we actually do about it? Now, I'm going to give you some really concrete things to think about here. Really practical things. Right. First of all, get clear on your non-negotiables. These are things that you've decided in advance that you simply don't do. Not because you're being awkward, but because you've thought about what works for your business and your life, and these are your standards. So it could be things like you don't take orders with less than 2 weeks' notice. You don't offer discounts on custom work. You don't reply to messages after 7 o'clock in the evening. And you do have a minimum order value of whatever your minimum order value might be. Now, the key is obviously deciding these things in advance, not in the moment when a customer is standing in front of you, metaphorically or literally. When you make decisions under pressure or under social discomfort, you almost always give more than you should. But if you've already decided, if it's already in your terms and conditions, if it's already in your policies that that's how you work, you just communicate that decision. Okay, second concrete thing you can think about here. Have your words ready. One of the biggest reasons bakers struggle to hold their boundaries is that they don't know what to say. They can't quite find the words that feel professional but not cold, and they panic and they overgive instead. So here are 3 scripts that work really well, and you can obviously take these and adapt these. So let's think about the late order request. What might you say to that? Something like, "Thank you so much for thinking of me. I'm fully booked for that date, but I'd love to help you for a future occasion. Here's how to get in touch when you're planning ahead." Warm, clear, and no apology. Okay, what about that? The price objection, the "can I have a discount?" Your reply to that would be something like, "I completely understand that every budget is different. My pricing reflects the quality of ingredients and the time that goes into each piece. I'm not able to reduce it, but I'd be happy to look at a simpler design that works within your budget if that would help." So it's confident, kind, and you haven't given anything away. And for the out of hours messages, well, you simply don't reply. It's as simple as that. You might put on an auto reply that says something about, "Thank you for getting in touch. We aim to reply within 24, 48, whatever your aim to reply is." You don't need to explain or apologise. You just need to say what your working hours are and stick to them. And the third concrete practical advice I can give you is this one. And it's a big one, but start small. You don't have to overhaul everything at once. Pick one boundary, just one. Decide on it. Write it down. You might have it in your head as I'm speaking, actually. In which case, write it down. Tell yourself, this is how I operate now. This has become your non-negotiable. And then keep yourself to it for at least a month. Notice what happens. I bet you that the catastrophe that you might imagine would happen doesn't materialise. And you'll feel so much better for it that you're going to want to build another, and then another, and then another. Now, if this has resonated with you, and I really hope it has, I want to tell you about something we're doing inside the March membership of the Home Baking Business Academy. One of our 4 sessions this month is dedicated entirely to this topic: boundaries that protect profit, not just peace. And we're going to go much deeper than we've gone today. We are looking at exactly where most bakers are quietly losing time and money, the hidden cost of being too accommodating, which we've touched on today, and crucially, how to enforce your non-negotiables calmly and professionally without it feeling like a confrontation. And you'll leave that session with a boundary checklist specific to your business. 5 written non-negotiables that you can start using straight away, and 3 ready-to-use scripts for those exact moments when you need to hold firm but want to do it kindly. Now, this session is actually happening today, the same day that the podcast goes out, but it is available on replay, so you can still take part. The next session next week, we're talking about identity shift. So many fabulous bakers I know describe themselves as just a baker. I hear that all the time: just a baker, just a baker. Whereas in fact, you're a business owner. You're not a baker who sells, you're a business owner who bakes. And there's such a big difference in that. And we are going to be exploring that shift in next week's session. And then at the end of the month, as with every month, we have a live Q&A where members can bring questions and get direct personalized input, not just from me, but from other members as well. It's a community event. So if that sounds like the community and the support you've been looking for, the link to join the Academy is in the show notes, and I would absolutely love to see you in there. So to close this episode, your takeaway from today is that being nice is not a very good business strategy. Start noticing this week where you're saying yes when you really mean no. That awareness, that moment of noticing, is genuinely the first step. And as I've just said, you don't have to change everything at once. Just pick one thing and start with that. Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of the Profitable Baker podcast. It's been so lovely to have you here, and I hope to see you next time.